Yo, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in once again. If you guys have watched the last couple of videos, first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys watching the content and supporting. Second of all, you would have seen that I've been trying to figure out what bike I'm going to purchase and race in the new 2023 Pro Motocross National season. And I'm happy to say we finally made a decision and just got back from Championship Power Sports, my favorite dealership, with the brand new motorcycle, which is just to the left of me out of screen here, and I'll show you guys in just a minute. This was a very difficult decision for me. About a month ago, I really had no idea what bike I was gonna be riding, and it's kind of been that way ever since, I would say, maybe halfway through the Pro Motocross season. As I said in the previous videos, I'll just go over it real quick. Being that the KTM is changing to an all-new platform for 2023, like halfway through the outdoor season, I was kind of starting to wonder what I was gonna do for the new 2023 season. Moving to an all-new chassis and engine platform means that a lot of the parts that I have for my previous race bike and practice bike aren't really gonna transfer over to the new machine. It's a radically different motorcycle and doesn't utilize a lot of the same parts, and so my thought process there was, if there was ever a time for me to make a change to a brand new OEM, now was the time to do it, especially being that it's the off season and we have plenty of time before the start of the Pro Motocross season. So I recently sold my practice bike and I've been searching for a bike to replace it. And in my last video, I went down to the MX Locker ride day in Florida, hitched a ride on a couple of different motorcycles. If you guys want to see that, I'll link it down in the description. And just basically got to test some stuff out. I got to ride the new Kawasaki, a 2022 Yamaha. I know it's not the brand new bike, but they're just not really easily available right now for me to test one out. Earlier this year, I actually got to ride my buddy's 22 Honda as well. If I still have the footage, I'll put it up on the screen. I didn't make a video on it though. Got to ride a 22 Gas. Earlier in 2022, I got to ride the new KTMs at the intro day at Redbud. So I've kind of gotten to feel out pretty much all the new bikes, and they're all super good. Like, I think you can't really go wrong picking any of the new bikes, and it made the decision very hard. And after contemplating it and talking to a bunch of people that I respect in the motocross industry, did a lot of talking with Kiefer, Michael Lindsay, a couple pro guys, factory and privateer, I finally made my decision, and I just got back from Championship Power Sports with my brand new motorcycle, which I will show you guys right now. We got a brand new 2023 KTM 450 SXF. This shouldn't be a huge shock to you guys. In the previous couple of videos, I said that this was probably the most obvious choice and is probably the route that I would end up going. I definitely didn't want to lead you guys on and make it seem like I was 100% gonna be changing brands. So I wanted to make sure in the previous couple of videos I said that, you know, set the expectations that I was probably gonna end up on the KTM, but I just wanted to get out there and explore my options while I had the opportunity. So I'm sure some of you are gonna be very excited. Some of you are going to be disappointed. I know I saw a lot of comments for the Kawasaki and the Yamaha, and then obviously there's always that core fan base who started watching the channel when I was on the Honda. And I know a lot of you guys wanted to see me do that as well. And to be honest, it was a very close decision between all the bikes that I rode. Simply put, the bikes are just so good nowadays. All the bikes are such a good starting platform that with enough fine tuning and seat time, I could probably get any of them to feel pretty much just as comfortable as I am on this KTM. And probably no matter what bike I'm on, I would finish around the same place at the Pro Nationals. And so with that being said, it mainly comes down to a reliability thing for me, and kind of whatever bike is gonna be the lowest cost to maintain. With how good I did on the previous 2022 this past season, it was gonna take something really special for me to kind of justify making a switch. Like, I was gonna have to get on a bike and immediately know from the very first lap, like, wow, this thing was just made for me. And it was gonna take something pretty special, like me going 2 or 3 seconds lap faster on it in order for me to make a change. It's really hard to do that when you ride other people's bikes, because I've spent the last however long dialing in my setup for me. I'm a taller guy, so I like the taller seat, some taller bars. I like a really stiff suspension setup because when I lean off the back, you know, I'm way far off the back. And when I'm on the forward with my leg out over the front wheel, that's a lot of weight on the front end. So hard for me to just jump on someone else's bike and love it immediately. So with that in mind, you know, if I hopped on someone else's completely different setup on a Kawasaki or a Yamaha and I loved it and was immediately more comfortable on it than I am on my KTM, then, you know, that would have been a good enough reason to make a change. And while each bike that I rode definitely had some things that I really liked about them, I didn't have like a euphoric out-of-body experience riding any of these bikes. On top of that, when I rode the new 23 model at Redbud earlier this spring for the intro, I absolutely loved the bike right from the get-go. It still feels like a very familiar and comfortable platform, just like the old one, but just with some tasteful upgrades that I was looking for on the old bike, such as, you know, having that rear end and rear shock, have the bike sit up a little bit more in the rear end. That's kind of something I was always searching for on the 22, and it seems like they fixed that immediately on the 23. The engine was definitely quite a bit stronger, which is another thing that I was kind of looking for out of my 22. So the 23 just kind of checked all the boxes that I was looking for, and I am super excited to finally get my whole setup on it and get dialing it in for the new season. I'm super blown away and surprised to say that the Kawi was actually my next favorite. I never really saw myself wanting a Kawasaki in the past, and actually the last time I rode a Kawasaki 450 was the 2020 shootout, where I think I ranked it like 4th or 5th. I just wasn't a huge fan of it, didn't really gel on it, so I wasn't expecting much when I rode one. But when I got to ride that one down at the MX Locker Ride Day at Okeechobee, down at Moto Bros in Okeechobee, dude, I gelled with it like pretty much immediately. It really only took like 2 corners for me to just kind of learn how I had to ride it, and once I did, it's just such a stable platform and just felt very comfortable. It almost feels like a soft bike that's very forgiving. Kind of feels like it has a long wheelbase, so it's really stable. Just didn't do anything weird to me, and I was really surprised at how much I really liked it. So actually, ever since that ride day, I've been emailing, calling, texting a lot of people that I respect in the industry, and just kind of going back and forth between the new KTM or the 23 Kawasaki. But really, one of the just enormous selling points for the KTM is how bulletproof they are. They truly come ready to race, even for a professional level. I mean, the past 2 years, I put almost 80 hours on my 450 practice bikes, 1 top end, maybe like 2 sets of clutch plates, and the thing has been absolutely rock solid. And after talking to a lot of people in the industry, it's kind of evident that if you get one of the Japanese bikes, someone at, you know, my skill level and speed level, you pretty much immediately want to open up the bottom end and get a better rod in there. One of the reasons the Austrian bikes last so much longer is they come with that really high-end Penkel rod, and that really helps the engine life on these things. And I'm just the type of person who, if I can ride a bike stock the whole season, I'm totally good with that. I would rather not split the cases open. I can kind of see doing it for a race bike if I'm going to build the race bike into a fire-breathing dragon, but it was just kind of a daunting thing, imagining buying 2 brand new motorcycles and immediately splitting the cases open, even on the practice bike. So comfort-wise, absolutely love the Kawi, but I think from a reliability and financial standpoint, I think the KTM is exactly the perfect bike for me. Now, obviously, I haven't gotten to ride this beast yet. We just got it back from the dealership. As soon as we got home, I took the rear shock off of it, and I took the cone valves off of the practice bike that I sold and ran those over to Turbo Speed Tuning. So for the past couple days, this thing has been torn apart a little bit. Just got the suspension back home and put the shock on so that I could make this video for you guys. I just didn't want to waste any time once I got the new bike. I wanted to get the suspension done ASAP, and I knew I could film the video later. So I'm sure you guys are actually dying to get a look at this bike, so we'll go ahead and talk about it a little bit. I've gotten to work on it just a little bit while I was taking the shock off and putting that back on, and I've already learned that it's definitely going to be a learning experience going to the new bike. It is very different. Even little things like taking the seat on and off, changing all the plastic, just kind of the order of operations and getting the shock off and everything. It's definitely going to be a learning process, but I'm really excited to start working on this thing and getting it dialed in. Main thing I'm gonna have to do, obviously, get my Renthal handlebar set up on here with my grips. Already have a seat on the way from Guts Racing. We have an exhaust sitting on the counter over there, which I'm not gonna show you guys quite yet. We'll show you in the next video. We'll obviously have the graphics. You guys are getting a little sneak peek of it right here. We're staying with that cool colorway that we kind of developed over last year. I'll go ahead and show you guys some things that I like about this bike already. So right from the get-go, I personally think this thing looks really good. I think it looks a little bit better than the old bike. The old bike has a little bit of a softer, Kind of like more of an old school look, kind of like the 2010 Honda. Just like sleek lines and everything. I think the new bike is definitely going for more of a futuristic, like angled and sharp look, which I think looks really good. Beyond just the look of it though, I think the functionality of the shroud is really good, how it kind of extends further and curls in right here. All the time on the old bike, when I would go to put my leg out in the corner, I would get my boot stuck right there and I would come out of a corner with my foot like locked onto the shroud. So I think this one over here is going to be a lot better for that. I don't foresee myself getting my boot hooked on that because it's so much further out there and it curls in. So I think that's going to be good. Personally, I like the seat design a little bit more. It's a little flatter and kind of looks a little bit taller. So this is just the stock seat right here. And you can see it kind of even looks almost just as tall as my 30mm tall gut seat over here. As I said, I did get a gut seat on the way already, a little bit of a taller one and the Phantom foam. So definitely excited to see if maybe I get a little bit more room out of the cockpit than I even did out of the old one. Next up, the foot pegs are all new. They're a lot bigger, it looks like. They have quite a bit more surface area and it looks like this webbing is designed to be a little bit stronger than the old one. You can see in comparison, the new one is quite a bit bigger and beefier. So for me, that's really good. I ride on my toes, and being that I'm 6'2", I have pretty big feet as well, so a little bit bigger of a platform is really good for me. Sometimes when I'm right on the very edge of my toes, it can get a little bit slippery, so having a bigger foot peg I think is really going to be nice. Getting the airbox cover on and off is much easier. The old one was kind of a pain, to be perfectly honest. This one comes off and goes on much easier. That definitely seems to be a lot better. I know at the Pro Nationals when my dad is changing my air filters between motos, he's really gonna appreciate that. Those are just some of the little things that I've noticed already working on this bike, but the main things that are a lot better, I know the engine is quite a bit stronger. I don't think component-wise the engine is much different, but it's mapped a lot more aggressively, and I can definitely vouch for when I rode it at the intro day, it was a very strong engine. Being that I'm a professional racer, I kind of have like this ego problem where I always feel like I have to ride the bike in the aggressive mode. So of course, the first time I hopped on the 450, I went ahead and put it in the aggressive mode, and quickly after a few corners, actually put it in the non-aggressive mode and rode it like that the whole rest of the day. So my race bike over there actually has the head done by DASA, and it has a Vortex ignition tuned by DASA, and I still think that the new bike stock was actually faster than it. So that's definitely gonna be really nice, especially for the hole shots at these Pro Nationals. And then probably the biggest thing that I'm excited to try out is that new rear shock setup. As I said on the old bike, the biggest thing that I struggled with was the rear end always sat a little bit lower than I wanted. And that's kind of true for, it seems like most people that ride those bikes. It's really hard to get them to sit high up in the stroke. And being that I'm tall, you know, and I ride a lot of sand, when I'm leaning off the back of the bike, I put a lot of weight on the back of the machine, and that can cause it to ride pretty low. Turbo Speed Tuning did a great job with my suspension last year, but that's something we were just kind of chasing, going up spring rates, going stiffer on the high-speed compression, and sometimes that could take a little bit of the comfort out of it, trying to get it to ride so much higher. So I know for a fact the new rear end setup on this bike is a lot better than the old one. It just naturally tends to sit up a lot higher. So I'm very excited to try that out. Guys can't really see it, but we already have the Turbo Speed Tuning stuff on the rear. And I have the cone valves over here, also done by Turbo Speed Tuning. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and throw that stuff on, and the bike should be handling absolutely perfect. Only thing they really changed on the front end was going up a spring rate, just because, as I said, there's a lot more weight on the front end because of the rear end riding higher. So they wanted to compensate for that by going up a spring rate in the front compared to the old bike. So I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of stuff that I'm discovering while working on and riding this new bike. I'm very excited to ride it, and this was obviously just kind of an intro video for you guys, and you know we're gonna get working on this thing immediately, and then as soon as it's ready to rip, we're gonna head south, find a track, and give it a shred. So hope you guys are stoked on the new bike. I'm absolutely ecstatic. I think this thing is gonna take me to my best season as a professional racer ever, and I'm just really excited to start grinding this thing out, figuring it out, dialing it in, and making a machine that I can do some work on. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. The next videos are just gonna be working on this thing and then shredding it, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, hope you guys are excited for it. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.